This is a betta fish, and his name is Maxwell. He was given that name by an associate of mine before they left to a faraway place, temporarily. I didn't want to have to task him with bringing an aquarium over many miles in a car, so, despite being given the option, I decided to take just the fish and not the aquarium. I had planned to put it in my community aquarium because all my fish are fairly fast moving, or, at least fast enough to outswim a fairly long-finned betta fish. Or so I thought! Before, to my dismay, the Siamese fighting fish fought. Now, thankfully, I had a backup plan. I knew keeping a male betta fish in a community tank is possible, but only under very specific circumstances. But I guess I didn't meet them. So basically, it's time to speedrun setting up a betta fish tank. And I'm gonna show you how. So first things first, we need a place to put the betta fish. If you just got your first betta fish and you do not have a tank for it, the general consensus on minimum tank size is 5 gallons. Now, lucky for me, I already had a pair of 5-gallon Home Depot buckets that were fish ready, and I was going to use them to breed shrimp. But after getting a dedicated shrimp tank, they were reduced to humidifiers for a mini greenhouse. Once you've tracked down pretty much any container that can hold 5 gallons of water and doesn't leach chemicals into said water, then you should be good to go on to the next step. Bacteria. It grows on almost any surface in your aquarium, and more porous things like sponges are better at growing it. It's what makes the nitrogen cycle go round. It's the key to cycling your tank, reducing water changes, and keeping anything alive in a glass box for extended periods of time. Thankfully, I already have many other aquariums, so from now on I can instant cycle any aquariums I decide to start up. To do that, I just move the quote-unquote dirtiest thing in that aquarium, which is usually the sponge in a hang-on back filter or the sponge of a sponge filter, to the new tank. If you can't wait a couple weeks for your tank to cycle, or already have your fish and an uncycled aquarium, then here's something you could try. Get a brand new sponge filter and head to a local fish store if you're fortunate enough to have one around, and ask to swap your new sponge filter with one of their used ones. The downsides to this being that you could infest your brand new tank with pests from their tank, and your sponge filter probably won't last as long as if you used it brand new. If the pros there outweigh the cons, is up to you. Next up is plants. Betta fish love them, and they help you by sucking up some of the poisons released by fish poop. I'll be using Java moss because it's one of my favorite and most adaptable plants in the hobby, but a better option would have probably been pothos. Most people have it growing in their backyards somehow, and it's actually better at absorbing those poisons than aquatic plants if you just keep its roots in the water and leaves out of it. So if you happen to have pothos in your backyard, there's your best option. But as substitution, I'll use a plant that works similarly, which is frogbit. Now, the plants are technically optional, although they definitely shouldn't be. But the next thing I'll be adding are things that release tannins, which is a lot more optional than plants, although it will still improve your betta fish's quality of life. These can be dead leaves, driftwood, seed pods, and other botanicals similar. Just make sure that they're safe for fish before you add them to your tank. Caves and hiding places are also really important to your betta. They're active most of the time, but do like to have a safe place to retreat to every now and then, especially at night. My solution to this was to stick some suction cups to planting pots so I could stick them to the inside of the bucket at various heights. I also cut a hole in the back of the largest one so the betta fish could get in through there. Once you've gathered everything you need, make sure to use dechlorinated water when filling your betta fish's tank. And now that you have water in the glass box, you can start adding your rocks and dead leaves. So that's what I did, and since this tank is already cycled, now even more so, it's time to introduce Maxwell. So, after 20 minutes of temperature acclimation and sort of an improvised drip acclimation kinda thing, I put the fish in the bucket. So there he goes. Inspecting the things as betta fish tend to do. I hope someone somewhere found this useful, because that's kinda what I was going for. The next major video is definitely gonna be the second part of the marine paludarium, but if everything goes to plan, which so far it's looking like, then the next major video might have something to do with mollusks. The ones with internal shells.